faces too.
We're on. We're on, actually. We're
Oh my
on.
God, I'm not being silly.
Hi, guys. So we're checking in with Ajja and Trevor Dixter, live from Ozora, of course. And you will be performing, opening the stage tonight, Novelty Engine, right?
Novelty Engine.
Yeah. So let's talk about this Novelty Engine that has been doing novelty on stage here at Ozora, at least, for about since 2015,
Can I
14.
grab the mic?
Yeah.
Yes, I shall take the mic. Hello. This is going to be our 4th time doing it. We skipped last year and we did 3 years in a row before. So that's since 2014. Yes, your math is good.
And Trevor is one of the constant pillars of the Novelty Engine experience, yes?
Yeah, I joined in with Ajja a little while ago with this crazy idea of getting a bunch of musicians on stage and
Which is
going for it.
and you have been going for it pretty successfully, I think, coming back and again. But otherwise, so one of the special features, let's say, of Novelty is that the collective, shall we call it, is variable. So you invite different artists for each
It's a modulable lineup. So the idea is that we're not a band, we're a concept. So ideally, we try and keep it as live and as improvised as possible. And if we can all meet at soundcheck, that's the perfect gig. We just turn up and we agree on what key and what BPM we're going to play beforehand, so people have some sort of idea. Otherwise, it would be irresponsible. But we just make it up as we go along. Yeah.
Really? I mean, how much pre-rehearsal time is there? Pre-jamming time is there involved?
There's no rehearsals. There's usually one jam every year if we can. We meet up at me and Tanya's place in Switzerland, just so that we can jam around with a couple of the people and get comfortable. And it's mainly me, Dixter comes, and Stephen Miquette, because Steve Hillage, he likes to actually balance his guitar patches so that they're not too loud or too quiet. But we try not to prepare, and we try not to give a preconceived idea of what we're going to do. Otherwise, it gets too boring.
Okay.
The idea is to really, we have to agree on a key and a BPM beforehand, because obviously Dixter, he's running the machines for us, and he needs a kick loop and a bass loop, so we have to know a little bit what's going on. But really, it's not like a backing track that's arranged from beginning to end. It's a kick loop, a bass loop, a hi-hat loop, and a snare loop. That's pretty much it.
Sounds so proper. So proper.
Yeah,
proper
and
structure.
everything is done live. All the arrangement is done live. And on the ones where we have a drummer, it's really good. We have Andy Gangadeen playing with us this year. He's played with us once before. And he was supposed to be here today, but he could not make it because
Ozora is happening to people.
Yes. He got Azored last night.
Yes.
No, there was a big storm last night, so it threw a spanner in the works. But we're here, so
we're here, and actually, you are the guys who can talk about the whole experience so far, because you have been involved from the very first
Dixter's
one.
been in every one so far.
Yeah.
Which?
Yes.
Not Ozora.
No, Ozora, we've been to quite a lot. We like Ozora.
So
Ozora is good.
let's talk a bit about how, first the idea came to you. Was it inspired here, or was it inspired hearing Cedric?
Well, actually, the way it happened was Cedric was at my friend's place, Dan Diamonds. He was recording an album, and Dan, he asked me to come along and record guitars with them. So I came and I was recording guitars, and then during the sessions I was archiving all the sessions as well, and then I had very little time at night, but I'm a bit of a workaholic sometimes, so I made this unofficial remix, so I remixed one of the reggae songs we were working on, and then I was a bit scared to play it for Cedric, so I waited a few days. And then, because Cedric, I respect him a lot, he's been doing this a long time. But eventually I worked up the courage and I played it for him, and he loved it. He went, wow, this is really cool music. And so I showed him some videos of Ozora, and I said, maybe one day, possibly in the future, you'd like to come. And he was really gave a good reaction to it, because he saw all these people partying, having fun, and giving energy out. And he thought, wow, that's very nice. It's something he'd never seen before. So this idea started, and then a little while later, I was at a dinner with Vega and the Ozora crew in India when there was a cancellation on the main stage of one of the bands that couldn't come. So kind of as half a joke, I said, well, if you've got a spot, I've got something.
Yeah.
And you guys took me up on it.
The rest is
So,
history. We are still
you
here.
know, that was the level of trust, and that I was amazed by it. I was like, what? Yes, okay. So the first thing I did was I got home and I called Dixter. I said, help, we've got a gig, you know, right? Let's get something together, and because we couldn't let everybody down.
Right.
And we gathered as many people as we could, and the concept was to get people that are not necessarily part of the psychedelic trance world, that come from rock and pop and funk, and all seasoned musicians.
Yeah. A lot of session players in there. With the keyboards, the guitars, and whatever.
Well, we've got Neil, actually. He wasn't in the first ones, but Neil Cowley is playing with us. He was in Green Nuns of the Revolution with Dixter, and he's done many, many other things, and he is simply amazing. But I have to say, all the musicians that have participated so far have shown so much trust and balls to get on stage without knowing what they're going to play.
Exactly.
To turn up and to have thousands of people in front of them, and to actually take the risk that it could all go wrong massively.
But also Andy Gangadeen, who does the drums, he's from the band The Bays, and their whole thing was to go on stage
and just rock it
and go.
Go mad.
No plan, sort of.
And he's connected to the drum and bass scene in back in the days when it started.
Yeah, so he's done quite a bit.
And the hybrid drumming thing. I'm sorry he's not here. I would have. I would love to grill him a bit. Yeah. But anyway, some amazing artists and masters.
Actually, this year you mentioned drum and bass, and it made me think we've got Clive Deemer with us this year.
So let's talk about the members this year.
He's comes from the Bristol scene as well, and he's the original drummer from Portishead. He was played with so many people, with Ronnie Size, all this sort of stuff. Represent, and I'm very, very curious to see him and Andy playing together, because.
So it's an experiment.
I'm not sure if they played together before, but I'm really, really curious to see what they're going to do on stage. Chuck them in. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough space on stage for two drummers, because that's our main problem, is fitting everybody on stage. Right. So Clive is going to play percussion for us this year. But I'm very, very happy about that this year, actually.
And I was wondering, you said when this opportunity came up that you thought of Dick Trevor at once. Yes. Why is he the one?
Look,
for the machines.
I'm not for anything. you know me.
He's very professional. He's been doing this a long time, and he does not get phased by anything.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
And Dixter's forte, if I can say this, is to balance things and to make sure that the kick, the bass, and all this side of it is running smoothly. So that's the only person I could think of. We've worked together already before. We have other different projects together and all this, and also I know that you run the machines for Spongel as well. So I knew that he had this idea of and a bit of experience doing this thing, you know. So for me that was the logical choice, because you do need somebody who is going to be at the heart of it to actually keep things running.
For sure. Yeah. And when you choose the band members, how does that come? Does it come like the first time that you just, are inspired or work together with somebody and then you would like to involve them in Novelty Engine, or, you have some clear idea year by year?
No, what we have year by year is we try and figure out the style beforehand. Okay. Like the first two were reggae inspired, and then it was called Siren Vibes. Now we're on funk, because the reggae version was getting a bit too. Already the second year there was a lot of the same players, so it started to become a band, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? So we need to change the main musicians each time, so that keep the excitement and the actual novelty of it going. It's Novelty Engine, that's the idea.
Exactly.
So it's a little bit organic the way that we pick the people. Is you'd be amazed how the universe works and connections work, that once you have an idea, suddenly people come out of the woodwork.
That's so true.
And suddenly you get presented with people like, Neil came last year because of the connection through Dixter and Green Nuns, and we were like, okay. Yeah. And then Clive came this year because he plays with Neil in his band. Right. So suddenly there was another connection there. A chain reaction, yeah. And Andy came. Andy was a last-minute sketch, because we were trying to figure out what to do, and we wanted to get a drummer in, sort of thing. And I think it was you that suggested Andy. Actually, at some point, you went, "Andy's good."
Andy will suffice, perhaps.
And that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Andy is amazing. I have to say, yes.
And about this improvisational part, I read a little bit into interviews, whatever, with the band members, and I don't know who said that they get asked a lot, how do you know when improvisation ends, if it's improvisation? And I was just thinking about you, that I know from last year, talking about you, that you have a beginning idea and an ending idea, and in between you can go anywhere, but those two things are like pillars.
That's the way
Is
I
that the
run.
same thing for Novelty?
Well, that's the way I run my sets, my Ajja sets, the psytrancey ones, is I generally know where I'm starting, where I'm going, and in between I like to figure it out as I go along.
Right.
I remember that conversation actually, that was nice. But with Novelty Engine, we like I said, we agree on keys and BPMs, and like this year, we're going to be starting slow and increasing the tempo as we go along to work our way up to psytrance sort of speeds like that, so that we can accelerate the dance floor.
Right.
But
and rely on a stopwatch to see that we don't go on too long.
How much would be like
this is the stopwatch.
Okay,
That's part of his job. Is he keeps an eye. We have a few hand signals together so we can communicate on stage, and one of Dixter's jobs is to actually tell us, stop.
I'll be watching that now.
You've got there, so and end of it.
You've got to make sure the vibe's right as well at the time. You can't say, all right, that's enough, guys, we've done 6 minutes.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Stop. But you've got to kind of watch and feel it.
You know, the longest possible time you could imagine doing a Novelty Engine performance on set?
I would say until people tell us to stop, basically.
It's true. Like when we did our small rehearsals with in Switzerland, we could go on all day on the same tune if you want.
Oh yeah.
We did some of the tracks when we were actually jamming around the keys and the BPMs. We were going on for like 40 minutes for one, and there was no need to stop except that we got hungry or we wanted a cup of tea or something like this, you know.
Yeah.
Because music is like a language. Once you actually start a conversation,
it was fun talking.
It was fun talking, and you can
drone on a bit though, so you got to stop it at some point.
And Guy, just to make a little detour, what about your other projects? Let's just visit your private projects as well. What's happening
What's
on
our
those
private
fronts?
projects?
What's up?
Okay,
so let's talk about that.
We are Vogon 42.
We are Vogon 42. That's me and Dixter together, yes. That's a new one. We actually haven't played a live set yet, but we have a live set together.
Super.
Because
tunes. We have enough tunes. Yeah.
Yes. And we also play in Infinity Gritty. That's me and Dixter and Gustavo, who's Burning Noise, who's also going to play with us in Novelty Engine.
Who did not want to come and talk with us.
He doesn't like interviews. No, he let us do the
he
work. He's like,
he speaks through his music. Let him do that.
Actually, I'm interested about Gustavo this year because he's going to bring the psychedelic trance element to the gig.
Oh, nice.
Because, like I said, we have Steve and Miquette from System 7.
Yes.
They come from their thing. They have their very strong identity. We have Neil Cowley playing keys, so he's more keysy sort of thing.
Keysy.
Funky, yeah. And this year we have Gustavo Burning Noise. He's going to play leads,
Cool.
right? Leads and psytrance, more stuff like that. So I'm very curious how that... Wow. Because personally, I've always found psytrance and funk to be very close to each other. They follow a lot of the same concepts of not having a verse, a chorus, of changing, of this, of being on this sort of train that keeps going and increasing the energy and working with it. So I really, really enjoyed the last one last year because of the drums and everything like this. This year, I'm very, very curious how the psychedelic leads are going to fit into it to increase the energy. I think it's going to be good.
We'll find out later.
We will. And just another thing. So Novelty Engine is kind of inspired by Terence McKenna's quote.
Of course, yes.
Which goes?
Well, actually, the proper quote is that reality is a novelty conserving engine. So it actually means that that's one of the things that keeps creating our world. That when the novelty stops, that's it. It's game over. So the idea is we want to have fun. We like this place. We want to keep going as long as we can. So the more novelty is, the better it is.
And I was wondering about traditions that Novelty Engine does conserve for us, for example. Is it the reggae? Is it the funk? Is it, what is it bringing into, let's say, present day worlds or universes of people who are younger, have not, had their share of soaking in different music.
Yeah. Well, they need to.
Well, they need to. Is that kind of like, at the background?
Well, that's one of the original ideas. Actually, is to merge all these worlds together and to carry on, like you're saying, traditions and parts of other genres and musics and actual musicians that have been around for decades doing this, to present them to mainly the Ozora dance floor and to the generations of today that this is valid music, that you don't just have to forget about it and move on to the next trend. You can incorporate it and you can still get something from it. I believe they've got a message to bring as well.
Which hopefully evolves it, you know.
As
all
sure.
musical styles evolve, you know. Once we just had dance music, and now that's gone into hundreds of different areas.
Also, I think if we look back on all the kind of collaborations and projects that were even inspired here during an Ozora Festival, like, you know, people hearing each other and being inspired to start playing together, in this way as well, you are showing that you can, you know, you have all worlds, and make that well, the mainstream is such a bad word, but to make it favorable for all, because then all the feelings, the thoughts, the philosophies as well, I think, can seep through different generations as well.
You're making me think of Cedric and Arzi in the first year. That was such a beautiful one because they'd never been to a festival like this before, and they were talking to the dance floor, and they were saying, "Hello, you guys are amazing. Wow, so nice. This is wow." You know,
completely different generation. I mean, he's 70 or 71 when he was doing
crazy.
it. Well, we have Raj Aram as well. But
we do.
We love Raj.
Of all positive vibes, I think. All right, guys. And what about yours, Orion Adventure? This year, are you interested in anything, especially being anywhere, or are you going to let it be spontaneous?
Well, actually, I've got a very interesting one personally. Is tomorrow I'm doing a talk in the Chambok House. Nice. I'm participating in a roundtable. So is Dixter.
So we're rehearsing for that.
Yeah, so we're getting ready.
All right.
So it's going to be us with.
What's the topic?
It's called Remixticism. It's
nice.
going to be us. It's a roundtable with Ray Castle and Graham. Mm-hmm. And yes, I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I reckon it's going to be fun.
Yes. To Goa, I guess.
Well, see, this is I was there as well when I was a kid, so I lived through this, but from a different point of view. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what we're going to discuss tomorrow. Actually, I'm looking forward to it.
Another improvisation.
It'll be fun.
It will be fun.
Thank you very much. Any last messages?
Any last messages? I would say thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy it.
Be there
today.
Enjoy
the rest of the festival.
Oh, yeah. So today, Novelty Engine in its 2019 improvisational form, phenomenon, opening the main stage tonight.
Yes.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you very much.
Woo.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.